Okay, good morning, everyone. We are again on our Monday morning lesson. So, today, and welcome to our 21st week, day one. So, again, I'm your teacher for today for our Maritime English lesson. So, for today, we will still continue with our types of vessels, alright? So, it's all about heavy lift type of vessels. Now, uh, we will just continue with our lesson from our previous weeks. Okay. Now, with regards to our types of vessels, so we have a cargo vessels, we have passenger vessels, we have naval, and also we have special purpose vessels. Okay, under this cargo vessels, we have already uh, we have already discussed about the container, right? We had bulk, we had tankers type, we have the ro-ro, and the reefer, and most especially the general cargo. So for today, we will continue with uh, heavy lifts type of vessel, which is under cargo vessels. Alright. This is an example of a heavy lift type of vessel. Okay, so this one transport exceptionally large, huge, or big, and then it's heavy, extra heavy, or a more complex structures. Okay, so with this, the purpose of this heavy lift type of vessel is to move or transport oversized and overweight cargo. Okay. And often, for industries like gas, like oil, like renewable energy, like wind turbines, okay, and other infrastructure projects. Okay, so the only key challenge for this heavy lifts are the handling of these extremely big and extremely heavy weights, and also the dimensions. Okay, now while maintaining the stability and the safety, of course, at sea. Okay, so these heavy lifts are, we can also consider this as a special type of vessel. Okay, so another type of a heavy lift is this one, the semi-submersible vessels, or they call it as SSVs. Okay, SSVs meaning S for semi, and another S for submersible. Okay, and for the V for the vessels. This one. Okay, this is designed wherein the cargo is submerged. Okay, the cargo decks are below the water line. Okay, to allow the heavy cargo like the oil rigs or other vessels to be floated on or off. Okay? Now, the mechanisms, when it comes to the mechanisms of this, the ballast tanks are filled with water. Okay? To partially submerge, okay, the vessel. Partially. So that's why it's called semi. Okay? Now, to create a platform, okay, to float on or float off. Alright? This one, the semi. And these platforms are oil drilling platforms like modules and other ships and even submarines. Okay. Now, the advantages of this basically is that this one is ideal, okay, for transporting complete pre-assembled structures, um, significantly reducing the time and cost compared to uh, piece by piece transport. Okay, so this is more what you call this advantage. To reduce the time and cost. All right. Now, also, this type of vessels, they are equipped uh, with a powerful, okay, onboard cranes. This one, okay. This is very powerful. Knowing these cranes lift, okay, lift and transport large and heavy project cargoes. So, could you just imagine how powerful these cranes are? Okay, so they can even lift heavy, heavy cargoes. Okay, or that are also too big for standard container ships. Okay, so you just imagine how powerful the cranes, and even they can lift hundreds or even thousands of metric tons, okay, of cargoes. Okay, now the example for this are industrial plant components, no? So, power generators equipment, yeah, they transport the wind turbine parts. Okay, they transport and they lift the cranes. Okay, and other locomotives and bridge parts. Okay, now this one can uh, carry a wide range of oversized items. Okay, and they're just open there. The decks are just open for flexible loading arrangements of the cargoes. Okay, so since we have a heavy lift type, semi-submersible type. So we have this what we call uh, wait, we have this offshore installation vessels. This one, okay. So and we also have a project cargo vessels here, or the multi-purpose heavy lift type of vessel. Okay, so this one is the project cargo or the multi-purpose type of vessel. And another is an offshore installation vessels. This one. Okay? These offshore installation vessels. Now, these offshore installation vessels are often referred as to us. Uh, this one is often referred as a crane vessels. Look at the cranes. Okay, so they are used for installing large, okay, big structures. This one, okay, but it's at sea. Okay, it's at sea, and particularly they install oil and gas and offshore wind industries. Okay, this offshore, that's why it's called offshore installation vessels. They installed large structures at sea. What are those structures? Like oil and gas, offshore wind industries, or cargoes. Okay. Now, these offshore installation vessels are equipped. Okay. They have a massive, they have a fixed or a revolving cranes. This one with I think they have this lifting capacity from thousands to over 10,000 metric tons. So it's really heavy. Okay, it's really powerful. And as I said, this one, uh, this one is used for installing foundations of like the turbines, substations for offshore wind farms, yeah, and for installing topsides and jackets for oil platform. Okay, so when we talk about dynamic positioning of this, um, there is a lot, or there are many OIVS or offshore installation vessels features. Okay, they have this what they call the advanced dynamic positioning system. All right, what is the purpose of that? uh, they actually maintain the position exactly or precisely without anchors. Okay, this is very important. This is crucial for complex offshore operations. Okay, so okay, before going to the livestock type, so for this, all these heavy lift vessels, they are really necessary. They are indispensable. They are important for the world market, of course, because of the energy development of every country. Okay, now enabling the transport and installation of the structures mentioned, and that structures are really impossible to transport without this type of vessels. Okay, really impossible, because these are designed, this offshore installation, these project cargo vessels or multi-purpose heavy lifts, and these semi-submersible vessels and these heavy lifts, these are all designed for very large, huge, big, heavy, or complex structures to transport from one country to another. Alright? So, we move on to another type of vessels under cargo type. Okay. Now, we have here a livestock type of livestock. So when we talk about livestock, we talk about animals, but we talk about animals. Okay. When we say vessels, we talk about transporting animals by sea. So this one is an example of a livestock type. Okay? And this one also is an example of a livestock vessel. Okay. Now this one is designed for uh, for the safety and humane transport of live animals over a long distances by sea. Okay? Like for example, you will transport from New Zealand to Korea. Okay? So, they transport from Australia to Korea again. Okay? So, live animals. Alright? They used a livestock vessels. This one and this one. Okay. So, I just want to emphasize that these livestock vessels transports or to move large numbers of farm animals. All right, like for example, the cattle, the sheep, or the goats. Okay, now from one region to another. All right, some primarily for breeding purposes, some for fattening purposes, or this one is another for slaughter purposes. Alright? So, since we all know that Australia and New Zealand are farm growing country, and basically they breed uh, they breed animals like the cattle, the sheep, and goats. So, and be transported to Korea or to the Philippines or to other countries. All right. So, this one is used for the live animals to be transported to another region or another country. Okay. Now, for this, there's a lot of considerations, okay? All right. So, there's a lot of considerations in using this one. First, they have to ensure or they have to make sure that the welfare of the animals throughout the journey, okay? Which provides there should be adequate space, okay? And there should be a proper ventilation, okay? There should be food and water of the live animals for the live animals, okay? And they have a strict international and national regulations, okay? Which is governed, which governs the design and operation of the entire vessel, okay, in order to minimize, okay, to lessen the stress and the mortality or the death among animals. So of course, if the animals will be transported from one port to another port, there should be food, there should be water for the live animals, there should be a proper ventilation of the animals to in order for them to minimize the stress and mortality or the death of the animals. Okay? Now, So, the design for this livestock vessels, of course, prioritizes the health and the well-being of the animals during transit. Okay? So as I said, the ventilation is very crucial, is very important. Okay? To maintain the air quality. Okay? And of course, you have to lessen the heat. Okay. You have to supply a fresh air to all decks. So there should be proper ventilation. Okay. Because there's hundreds, okay, or thousands sometimes, thousands of animals that are transported in this type of vessel. Now, the feeding and the watering system for this is highly automated, and also there's semi-automated systems, okay, for the crew to feed the animals to prevent them from dehydration, of course, and malnutrition. Okay. Now, the pens of this, the cages of this are designed to provide sufficient or enough space per animal. Okay, it should be non slippery flooring. And of course, the most important, because every day there are waste products of the animals, no? So it's not only one waste product. There are thousands of animals in this type of vessels. So, of course, they have to maintain the hygiene, okay? The hygiene of the animals on board. Okay. Now we have here types of livestock vessels. Okay. As you can see here, this is another type. Okay. The design is different from this one. So there are types. Okay. They vary in their design. Yes. In the capacity. So it ranges from purposely built ships and converted type of livestock vessels. Okay. Now, when we say purposely built or purpose-built vessel, is this one. This one basically is specifically designed for animal transport. Okay, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, the the layout for this is really different. Okay, and the welfare, as I mentioned earlier, the ventilation, the water system, the waste management system for this are different. Okay, now the other type is the converted type of livestock vessel. This one is the example. Okay, so this one, this type of converted vessels are the older type. Okay, so this one is often equipped also with added decks and then the ventilation and the feeding system. Okay, so okay, let's talk about the capacity for this. Okay, of the livestock vessel. Okay, so these vessels ranges, okay, from smaller carrying ships to uh, hundreds of or a few hundreds of animals. Okay, to from small to large carriers. Okay, transporting from hundreds to 10,000s of sheep or thousands of cattle or goats. Okay, so the operations, let's go to the operations and regulations of this. The pre-loading, okay, the pre-loading checks. So what they do before loading. Okay. Of course, the animals undergo uh, health inspections. Okay, of course, that's very important. If they are disinfected, if they are cleaned thoroughly. And we have also other veterinary care. Okay, there's a trained veterinarian on board. Okay, of course, to monitor the health status of the different animals transported. Okay, so the first regulation for that is the animals should be disinfected. They are checked thoroughly. Next, there's a veterinarian or the veterinary doctor on board to monitor the animal health. Okay, the journey monitoring for this is that it includes the temperature, as I mentioned earlier, that there should be enough ventilation. And the most important for this is the international standards. Okay, they should pass, they should comply. All right? So, the importance and challenges for this livestock is that they play a vital role in the world. Yeah, when it comes to global food supply chains, okay, it's they play a very important role. Okay. Oh, wow. So let's have a short quiz for this. Okay. Let's have a short activity. Okay. So it says here that which type of heavy lift vessel is designed to submerge its cargo deck below water line for loading. Okay, which type of heavy lift? This one, what type is this? It's what we call semi-submersible vessel. Okay, this type of vessel is designed to submerge. That's below here, the water line for loading purposes. It's the semi-submersible type of heavy lift. Okay. For next, sorry. Okay. So, oh, what is the primary feature of the project cargo vessels that allows them to lift large and heavy items? So it's the powerful onboard cranes. Yes, I mentioned that earlier. That is the primary feature of a project cargo type of heavy lift vessel. They're powerful onboard cranes. Okay? So next, offshore installation vessels or the OIVs are typically used for installing structures in what environment? So what environment? It's offshore at sea. By the name itself, offshore installation. Okay? Vessels. Okay. So, next is the true or false. Okay, true or false. It's is heavy lift vessels are only used for transporting oil rigs. Is it true? Is it correct that heavy lift vessels are only used for transporting oil rigs? Well, it's false because they also transport wind turbine parts, okay, that are used for industrial purposes. Like also they transport bridge sections, no? Bridge parts. Okay. So it's not only oil rigs, but also this one. So it's false. Okay. Next. Okay. What kind of components might a project cargo vessel transport for a wind farm? What is that component? It's the wind turbine parts. I'm sure everyone saw uh, this with your travel, with your voyage, um, most likely from New Zealand, because primarily it's a farm, mostly it's a farm country, okay, the New Zealand. So they have this wind turbines. So that is the primary component wherein the project cargo vessels transport, okay. So it's the wind turbine, okay, here. So this is again a livestock. Well, for the heavy lift, by the way, uh, for the heavy lift type, this type of vessel is also designed really for for transporting uh, cargoes that are really exceptionally heavy, no, heavy and very large. Okay, so heavy lifts are really important for the global industries. Okay, now this one is a livestock. Okay, as mentioned. So it says here that what is the primary purpose of this livestock vessel? Okay, what is the primary purpose? Of course, to move live animals over long distances. Okay, by sea, of course. Okay, by sea, of course. And next, so what is a key consideration when designing a livestock vessel? So, what is that? Consideration, okay, for the design. Okay, of course, the, uh, the design ensures the welfare of the animals, right? So, I said before, earlier, that it should be designed properly as uh, the layout should be with a specialized equipment, okay, wherein it is dedicated for the animal welfare, okay, for the facilities, okay. So there should be a proper ventilation for each animal. Okay. So next we have, oh, all right. Is it true or false? Okay. Converted vessels are older ships that have been modified to carry livestock. Is it true? These converted vessels, they are older cargo ships, okay, that have been modified to carry livestock? Yes, it's true. Converted vessels. They are older cargo ships. Alright. So, another. So, which of the following is not listed as a design feature for animal welfare on livestock vessels? So, which one is not listed? So, it's the onboard entertainment systems. Yes, there is no onboard entertainment for that. Alright? There is none. Not included. Okay? Because first, the design feature should have the the design should focuses on the welfare of the animal. Secondly, the ventilation system, and then the feeding and the watering system. And there should be the penning and flooring should be designed properly. And of course, the most important is the waste management system. So there's no onboard entertainment system, right? Okay. So another, it says here that what type of risk is associated with preventing the spread of diseases between regions or from one country to another when transporting livestock. So, what is that type of risk uh, management with preventing in preventing the spread of diseases? So, what is that? It's the biosecurity risk system. Okay? This one is very important. Remember, I mentioned that that firstly they have to inspect. They have to uh, disinfect the animals properly. Okay? To prevent the spread of diseases, okay, between regions when transporting that livestock animals. Okay, what is what is the system called? It's the biosecurity risk management. Okay, all right. So yeah, we have this last type. Okay, so we're done with the livestock, we're done with the heavy type of vessels. Let's move on to our last cargo type of vessel, which is the multipurpose vessels. Okay, that's why they are called versatile sea transport because they are able to do many or different type of cargo. That's why they are called versatile, multi-purpose vessels. Okay? So, this one, this type are highly, okay, versatile ships. And they are designed to carry a wide variety of cargoes. Okay? So, this one making them the multi-purpose vessels flexible, okay, for the solution of uh, for diverse shipping needs. Okay, when we say when we say uh, when we say flexible, it's you can load here like bulk, and then you can load another type of cargo, and then there's another. So it's flexible. You can load anything on this type of vessel. Okay? So when we say multi-purpose type of vessels, yes, they are capable of bulk cargo. Yes, as I mentioned, bulk cargo. You can you can also transport break bulk cargo. You can also transport a containers here, okay? A project cargo, okay? And even sometimes heavy lift items also. So that is why it is called a versatile vessel, versatile sea vessel, okay? Multi-purpose, okay? So when we say uh, when we say multi-purpose, okay, so this is equipped with flexible deck, okay, configurations, okay, and sometimes, yes, can you see this? The cranes, yes, this one, and sometimes there are onboard cranes. This one, the cranes here, okay, so allowing them to adjust to different cargo requirements. Okay, this one. And yeah, their only advantage is that uh, their ability to handle multiple. That's why it's called multiple cargo types, really. And you can reduce the need for specialized type of vessels. Yes, offering cost efficiencies and of course wider market reach. Okay, if you use this one, the multi-purpose. Okay, so it actually incorporates features that enable their wide cargo handling capabilities. Okay, and of course, the cargo holds of this are are often box shape. Okay, this one with adjustable bulkheads. Okay, allowing of course various sizes of cargo for segregation. Of course, okay, and this onboard crates, by the way, everyone is equipped typically around 50 to 150 tons capacity, this one. And sometimes higher to 50 to 150. Okay. Of course, for independent loading and unloading. Okay. So, especially if there are ports that have no cranes, okay, or heavy lifting gears, okay. So so it's better if the multi-purpose vessels have this type of cranes, okay. So the when it comes to the latch openings of this type of vessel, um, it's large, really. It's long, okay, to facilitate the oversized type of cargo, okay? And the deck space for this is they have a sufficient, no? They have sufficient and they are sufficient, they are clear deck space available for this type of vessel. Okay? So multi-purpose type of vessel, this one, they excel, okay, at carrying a diverse range of goods, okay? Differentiating them from the specialized carriers, okay? So, the break bulk, as I said, this one, the break bulk cargoes, this one are not the non-containerized, this one, this type of cargo, not containerized, meaning it's not placed in a container, no, like the steel products, this one, okay, timber, woods, okay, machinery sometimes, or bag goods. That's why the cargo holds of this is open sometimes and it's flexible, okay. And when we say bulk cargo, okay, they can carry commodities like the grains, okay, like the fertilizers or minerals, okay. So that's what we call bulk cargo, okay. Multi-purpose can also carry or can also transport this type, okay. And we have these containers, okay. Okay. Often the capacity for this to carry are standard shipping containers. This one. Alright? So it's either on the deck or in their cargo holds. Okay. Now, we also have a project cargo. Okay, project cargo. This one really is capable of transporting large and heavy. Okay, like what we call the heavy lift. Multi-purpose can also carry that one, that heavy and large cargoes. Okay, they can also carry wind turbines or other industrial parts. Okay, now only for this, the operational and the and the and the purpose of this is that uh, it emphasizes, okay, adaptability and the efficiency, okay, for the shipping routes and for the port conditions. Okay. Now, these onboard cranes, by the way, everyone, uh, this one, as I said, that it can operate wide range, okay, of ports, including those only with limited shore infrastructure. Okay, for this type of vessel, the multi-purpose. All right. So, all right. The key design for this. Yes. Okay. All right. We have here the key designs for this are the adjustable holds. Okay. When we say adjustable holds, it means that uh, the 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 cargo holds of this are open, okay, and it's box shaped. Okay, it's box shaped. So by the word itself, it says adjustable. So meaning you can move or you can adjust the cargo holds of this multi-purpose. And as I said, the onboard cranes are really powerful, and the large hatch openings are wide, they're long, okay, and the deck space for these are really it's an open space, okay. So there's enough space to carry the different types of cargo. Okay, so yeah, we'll have a little quiz again about the the multipurpose. Okay. So, it says here that what is a key characteristic of a multi-purpose vessels that makes them versatile? Yes. Is it A, they only carry one type of cargo? Of course not. They are designed to carry a wide variety of cargo types. Is it they carry exclusively used for passenger transport? Of course not. They cannot operate in ports with limited infrastructure. I guess you have already a correct answer for number one. It's of course letter B. They are designed to carry a wide variety of cargo types. Right? Yes, that's why it's called multi-purpose vessels. Alright, for number two, we have many MPVs, multi-purpose vessels, are equipped with what feature for independent loading and unloading? What is that specific feature that a multipurpose have or are equipped with during loading and unloading? Is there helipads? Did we mention about helipads? Did we mention large swimming pools? Did we mention onboard cranes? Or did we mention submersible decks? Of course, I know very well you know the answer for this because I kept on repeating the feature of a multi-purpose vessels. So, what is that? Is it A, B, C, or D? Yes, of course, it's letter C. Remember, the powerful onboard cranes is the feature for independent loading and unloading purposes. Right? Okay, for number three question. So, which of the following cargo types can multi-purpose vessels often carry? Yeah, I mentioned it also. Is it A? Is it live animals? B? Is it only liquid bulk? Is it C? The brave bulk cargo, and containers? And D is only cars. So, what are the cargo types can multi-purpose vessels often carry? Oh, of course, it's letter C because live animals are for the livestock type of vessels. Okay? For the liquid bulk, we have the LNG type. For the cars are the PCTC. Okay. So, for the multipurpose, it's letter C. Alright, next. So, is it true or false? Multipurpose vessels, self-sufficiency with onboard cranes means they can operate in a wider range of ports. Is it true or false? Of course, it's true. Yes, it can operate in a wider range of ports because of the on-board cranes. Alright? So, we have Next question. What kind of market do MPVs serve where the volume for dedicated carriers might not be consistent? Okay, so what kind of market? Okay, so is it A, the luxury cruise markets? Do you market this one? The niche routes or smaller ports? The high volume container routes? Or the exclusive oil and gas fields? So what kind of market do multi-purpose vessels serve? It's letter B. It's the niche routes or smaller ports. Okay? So that is what the MPVs often serve. When we say niche, specific routes. Okay? Specific routes or smaller ports. Okay, next. All right, so we're done with livestock. We're done with heavy lift. We're done with multi-purpose. So let's go to naval type of vessel. Okay, so did everyone understand the difference of the three? The livestock, the heavy lifts, and the multi-purpose type of vessel. So let's go to naval vessels or the warships. Ships. Okay. One. This one is the aircraft carrier. This one here. Aircraft carriers. And this one, the destroyers and the frigates. This one. Okay? The amphibious assault ships is this one. And we have the patrol boats, this one. And the submarines is this one. All this, okay, all these five mentioned are considered naval vessels or warships. Okay? So, as we go on, we will discuss all this one by one to differentiate their purpose, okay, and what are these, okay, types of naval vessels. So, one, the aircraft carrier. This one, I'm sure you've seen this one already. This is the aircraft carrier. Okay, so this is a massive, meaning a big, okay, a solid or a heavy warship designed to serve as a floating air base. Okay, this one. Okay, so when we say an aircraft carrier, okay, this one is capable, okay, of launching, of recovering. They are capable of maintaining a full complement of military aircraft. Okay? And it brings power, okay, of an air force, okay, directly to any ocean in the world. okay, without needing permission from other nations for land bases. Okay? This one. So, it brings power of an air force. Like, for example, the Korean Air Force. Like, for example, the US Military Air Force. Alright? So, they all have like this. Each powerful nation. Yeah, basically, they all have this. Okay? This is served as a floating air base. Alright, let's go. Let's continue describing the aircraft carrier. Yes, as I mentioned, they are capable of launching. Yeah, okay? So, yes, it brings power, okay, of each nation. The most important thing here is that it does not require or permission from other nations for land bases. Okay? So, the purpose of this basically, as I mentioned, it is uh, uh, this aircraft carrier is power projection. Okay? Now, this one allow a nation to to deploy, okay, to deploy air power, okay, rapidly and decisively to distant regions, okay, supporting military operations, okay, okay, also deterring aggression, okay, and of course, if there's crisis in one region, okay, they respond, okay, through this type of through this type of vessel. Now, the key components of this in naval task forces, they provide what they call this air superiority, okay, and also the ground attack capabilities, okay, and of course, since they are military, and once you're into military, the intelligence gathering of all the military crew are here. Okay? Now, what makes this aircraft carrier distinct or different from others? Alright. So, yeah, here. Uh, the flight deck. Okay? The flight deck, meaning this one. This one is the deck part. Okay? It's long. It says here that it's long, it's flat, okay, for the aircraft to take offs and landings. Okay, flight deck is like a runway in our airports. Okay, in order for the aircraft to take offs and landings. Okay, now we also have here called the island. Okay, the island is the command and control center. Okay, located on the starboard side. This one. Okay, basically, it's in an ordinary type of vessel, it's the bridge. But for the for the uh, for the aircraft carrier, it's called island. Okay. The catapult system. Okay. The catapults, this is the systems. Okay. That rapidly accelerate aircraft for takeoff. This one is responsible for this system. The catapults is responsible for a very fast, okay, very fast acceleration of the aircraft for takeoff. Going up, okay, the speed, okay. So, another, the arresting gear. The arresting gear are the cables, okay. This can be stretched, okay, across the deck, okay, to catch landing aircraft and bring them to a quick stop. Yes. Wait, sorry. The arresting gear, these are a very powerful cable. Whenever the aircraft is about to land here, could you just imagine this is just a short runway, okay? So whenever the aircraft lands here, the acceleration gear here, that is the cable. We cannot actually see the cable here, the actual, okay? But as described, the arresting gear are the cables stretched across the deck, okay, to catch landing aircraft and bring them to a quick stop. And lastly, the hangar base. That is below the deck areas. Alright. Storing, maintaining, and preparing the aircraft. It's below. Under the flight deck is the hangar base. Okay? For the storage of the aircraft, for the maintenance of that, and for the preparations of that. Okay, those are all under, okay, below the deck. Okay, so the capabilities of this. Yes, today's aircraft carriers are technologically marvels. Yes, they are called marvels. All right, like superheroes. Okay, they operate fighter jets here. They have surveillance aircraft here. They have helicopters here. Okay, and potentially drones, of course, because basically it's a warship. Okay, and they often nuclear powered. Okay, the 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 aircraft carriers. Okay, and they are, of course, they are modern, they are sophisticated, they have a very updated or sophisticated control centers, okay, for their radars, for their communication, and they also have weapons here, of course. All right, so those are the 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 police capabilities a of an aircraft carrier. Okay, so oh, we have again a question or activities here. Okay, so it says here that what is the primary function, okay, of an aircraft carrier? So, which is described in the presentation. Primary function, of course, it says here that the primary function of an aircraft carrier is the power projection, allowing a nation to deploy air power rapidly and decisively to distant regions. Yes, it's the primary function of the aircraft carrier, the power projection. Okay, next. So, can you name two key features of an aircraft carrier? that I mentioned and that are essential or important for the aircraft operations. What are the two key features? One, the flight deck and either the catapults or arresting gear. Yes, those are the two key features. The flat deck, the flight deck, or the runway, okay? And the system, the catapults, or the arresting gear. Those are the most important features of an aircraft carrier. Remember the arresting gear? This is the cable across the deck. Okay, next. According to my presentation, what kind of power source do modern aircraft carrier often use? Okay, so what is that power source? So it's the use is the nuclear power for virtually unlimited range. Yes, unlimited range, meaning it could reach wide and unlimited, okay? Because of this nuclear power source. Okay? So next it's okay. Besides launching and recovering aircraft, so what do you think are the other roles of this carrier uh, that plays within the naval task forces? Okay, one is air superiority. Next is the ground attack capabilities and the intelligence gathering. Okay? So either of that, okay? Either of that. So when we say it provides air superiority, okay, ground attack capabilities, and intelligence gathering, those are the roles that aircraft carriers play within the naval task forces. Okay, next. So why are these aircraft carriers considered to have a strategic importance in international diplomacy and national defense? So why are they considered having this strategic importance? Okay, because this is a symbol of a nation's military strength, okay, and global reach. Yes, that is a symbol. Once you have this type of aircraft carrier, if a nation or if a country have like this type of carrier, it symbolizes a national military strength, meaning you have a strong military forces that can reach globally. All right? That's why if you have this, like the US, like the Russia, okay, like Korea, Japan, China, they have all aircraft carriers because simply it symbolizes a strong military forces. Okay? So next. Yeah. We'll go to destroyers, this one. And the frigates. This is just a brief description for this type of vessels actually. So this is fast, okay? They are highly maneuverable, easily to maneuver, all right? And long endurance warship. This is a smaller version, okay, type. The destroyers actually, this one. Smaller type, okay, of a war ship. Okay? So, since this is fast and you can easily maneuver this one, okay, you have a long endurance warship for this. And also, these destroyers are used to escort, okay, to escort large vessels. Yeah. Sometimes if you are in a I'm not so sure if everyone have already encountered to travel in a pirate area. Okay, like for example, in a part of Somalia. Okay, whenever a like for example, whenever example a car carrier, alright, travel from or will pass by through Somalia. Sometimes since it's a pirate area, they request they will request for a an escort. Okay, so this is the one. Okay, they escort large vessels in a fleet or they convoy or a battle group, and then they defend them against shorter range attackers if there is. Okay, that's why it's called destroyers. Okay, now the frigates, okay, the frigates is also a type of warship, but it's it's smaller type, okay, the smaller type and less heavily armed than the destroyer. All right, the destroyer is fast, okay, and they are heavily armed, okay, heavily armed type of warship, and the frigate is much smaller type. Okay, but they can also but they are also capable of multi-mission operations. Only they are this type of ship is smaller and less heavily armed than the destroyer. Okay, now the frigates also used for escort duties. Okay, for anti-submarine warfare. Okay, and they also protect merchant ships. Okay, and also these often have uh, air defense also and anti-ship capabilities. Okay, so the key difference, okay, of these both, since both are escort vessels, the destroyers, yes, as I mentioned, that it's generally larger and faster and more heavily armed. Okay, most especially in advanced anti-air and anti-ballistic missile system. All right. So for the frigates, they're often focused on submarines warfare, and the general purpose of the frigates are also to escort. Okay, offering a more cost-effective solution for a wider range of missions in coastal or regional waters. So, all right, let's have a short quiz again. So, what is the main role of a destroyer as described? So, what is the main role? Of course, it's designed to escort, right? Larger vessels and defend them against a shorter range attackers. Alright? So meaning as I mentioned earlier, like for example, for the car ship carrier, since car ships are really a multi-million or billion uh, cargoes, right? So whenever they pass by through Somalia, and since Somalia is a pirated area, so the actually they will request for an escort. So this is the destroyer to escort larger vessels and defend them against shorter range attackers. All right. Next, historically, what were frigates primarily used for? Now, it is used for, of course, to escort also, and for the anti-submarine warfare. Yes, and protecting merchant ships. Okay, so those are the basic use of or purpose of the frigates. So next we have the which type of vessel, the destroyers or frigates is generally larger. Yes, faster and more heavily armed. So of course it's the destroyers. It's larger, it's faster, and more heavily armed. Alright? So next, it's the question number 4. You have to name 2 types of weapons system that modern destroyers and frigates featured in modern capabilities. So, what are those systems used? It's the advanced radar and the sonar system. Alright? The vertical launching systems for missiles, and the torpedo launchers, and the naval guns. Okay, there are 4. Okay, but it says you name only 2. So it's either advanced radar, excuse me, the sonar systems, the vertical launching systems for missiles, the torpedo launchers, and the naval guns. Okay, for number 5, excuse me, why are destroyers and frigates considered indispensable assets? Okay, so why are they considered indispensable assets? Because they form the backbone of most modern navies. Alright? And it provides a crucial protection for larger capital ships. And they safeguard shipping lanes, yes, and conduct various independent operations like maritime security, yes, and anti-piracy. Yes, they're the ones. Okay, so let's move to our third naval type of vessel. So this one is a submarine, right? This one. This is a specialized watercraft which is capable of independent operation under water. That's why it's called submarine, underwater. Alright. So when we say submarine, alright, it's these submarines can operate stealthily, meaning when you say stealthily, they can move or they can operate quietly, stealthily, beneath, under, below the water, okay, for an extended period. Okay, making them the submarines, okay, unique. And of course, they are powerful naval assets. Okay? This submarine can operate quietly below or beneath the surface of the ocean for a period of time. That's the reason why they are unique and they are powerful naval assets. Because once you have this, meaning you are really a powerful nation. Alright? So, this one is designed for various missions. Okay? For intelligence, gathering, and strategic deterrence. Okay. Now, the purpose of this, basically, okay, is to carry missiles. Okay? Okay? So, providing a credible second strike capability and contributing to nuclear deterrence. Alright. So, also, the attack roles of this. They are designed to hunt other submarines, okay, and to conduct surveillance. All right, and then they will, they will pass on the surveillance they made to special forces, okay, and then there is intelligence gathering. Now they're still their quietness allows them to collect intelligence undetected in sensitive areas. Yes. Okay. So, next. All right. Let's have a short quiz for that about submarines. Okay. So, it says here that question number one, what characteristic allows submarines to operate, yes, undetected for extended periods, making them unique naval assets? So what is that characteristic? It's their ability to operate stealthily, quietly, or they are unseen beneath the ocean's surface, right? That is their unique naval feature or characteristic. They can operate, their ability to operate stealthily, quietly, or they are unseen beneath the ocean's feature, beneath the ocean's surface. Okay? Next, can you name two main types of submarines? Okay? Based on their propulsion, as mentioned in the presentation. Alright. The two main types of nuclear powered are the SSN or SSBN and the diesel electric. Okay? That's the two main types of submarines. Alright. Next. So, what is one critical purpose of submarines related to nuclear weapons as described? Okay? What is one critical purpose of submarines related to nuclear weapons? So, the strategic deterrence. Alright. That is one purpose. Okay? The strategic deterrence of a submarine. Okay. Next. Okay. Let's take a look. Let's have a brief look of this type of naval vessel. This is the amphibious. Okay? Amphibious. This one is basically also a warship, type of warship. Now, this one is designed to transport and deploy ground forces here. Alright. Now, along with their equipment and vehicles, okay, by sea to hostile shores. Okay. Now, these vessels act as a floating bases, like the aircraft carrier. This one carries vessels. Okay. They carry, okay, they carry equipments also and vehicles for launching operations, amphibious operations. Okay. Now, bridging the gap between sea and the land combat. Like, for example, here, they will carry, what they call this, the tank, warship tank here. Okay. So, for the amphibious vessel, amphibious assault ship. Alright. So, the difference for about the patrol boat, this one is relatively small naval vessel. Okay. This one is only designed for like for example coast to coast. Okay, short distance only. Okay. Normally this is like a mobile if in the land. Okay, this is like a mobile in the land, but since this is at sea, it's called the patrol boat for surveillance operations. Okay, and in national territorial waters, they are the ones patrolling. Okay, so this one is designed for coastal defense only, or border patrol. Okay, this is a small naval vessel. Okay, now this one is also uh, armed with lighter weaponry compared to larger ships. Yes, since this is small, they are also fast, and they can maneuver fast also. Okay, since it's a smaller version of a warship vessel, smaller version. Okay, so oh yeah, let's have a short quiz. So, what is the primary function of an amphibious assault ships? Yes, in terms, it's to transport and deploy ground forces, of course, along with their equipment vehicles by sea to hostile shores. Yes, that is the primary function of an amphibious assault ship. Alright? So so next is the can you name two key roles that patrol boats serve in a nation's territorial waters? It's the patrol boats serve various crucial roles such as border security, the coastal defense, the fisheries protection, the search and rescue, anti-piracy and anti-smuggling, and surveillance. Yes, those are the roles of a patrol boats. Okay, those mentioned. Okay, like it acts as a border security. It acts as a coastal defense, a fisheries protection, a search and rescue, an anti-piracy or anti-smuggling, and surveillance. Okay? those are the roles of a patrol boats. Okay, next. What type of aircraft can amphibious assault ships carry on their flight decks to aid in their operations? So, it's the helicopters, and sometimes they call it the vertical or short takeoff and landing fixed wing aircraft. Okay? Those are the type of aircraft that an amphibious carry or transports. Okay? So next. Oh, wow, we're done with our lesson. Okay, so since we're done, we discussed about the continuation of our first type of vessel, which is the cargo vessels. We finished now with that through heavy lift, livestock, and the multipurpose. And we discussed also about the naval vessels. Okay, the third type actually of vessels. The naval vessels, which are the warships. We had the aircraft carriers. We had discussed the destroyers and fighters, frigates, sorry. And we have the submarines. We have the amphibious assault ships, and lastly, the patrol boats. So, for next lesson on Wednesday, we will have our the very last type of vessels, which is the special purpose vessels, which includes the tugboats, the offshore support vessels, the dredgers, the research vessels, the icebreakers, the cable laying ships, the salvage ships, and the firefighting vessels. So, since that's going to be our last part of our type uh, type of vessels, um, we will end there for our discussion on Wednesday about that long lesson about the type of vessels. Okay, so after that, we'll move on to another topic. Okay, so I would like to say thank you everyone for listening to me for our discussion, and I'll see you all again on Wednesday for our 21st week, day 2. So, same time, and me again on Wednesdays. So, bye for now, and hope to see you all on Wednesday. Okay, bye.